This is Authentic Analysis with AI
and K,
where we'll be discussing the most controversial crime cases from across the globe,
as well as other important topics. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe.
So this is Dennis Nilsen's first murder house.
Melrose Avenue.
Melrose Avenue.
But obviously there's a new family living at accommodation, but
Yeah.
just wanted to show where he was in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
So we'll be going to the next
Location.
Yeah. Stay tuned, guys. So we're at the second residence of Dennis Nilsen
Yeah.
at
Cranley Gardens.
yeah.
N10. This is why he was called
This is where
Muswell Hill Murderer.
this is where he got arrested.
Yeah.
And,
This is where they found human remains in the drains.
Probably at the back of the housing.
Yeah.
So yeah, a bit close to home. So today we're talking about Dennis Nilsen,
Otherwise known as the Muswell Hill Murderer.
or the kindly killer. We'll get into what.
So he killed about approximately 12 victims.
Well, 12 to 15.
Victims. So out of respect for the victims, we just want to read their names. Unfortunately, tragically, Dennis murdered 8 people that they can prove. I mean, you know,
That they identified.
That they identified. So Stephen Holmes, Kenneth Ockenden, Martin Duffy, William Sutherland, Malcolm Barlow, John Howlett, Graham Allen, and Stephen Sinclair.
So you have some of the people that Dennis attempted to murder. So you have Douglas Stewart, you have Paul Nobbs, Toshimitsu Ozawa, Carl Stotter, which we'll be talking about later. Attempted to kill 7 men, which didn't go through, so we're not really sure about the accurate number of how many people he actually killed.
A bit about his life. He was in the army as a chef. Then he worked as a police officer, and then he worked for the job centre. We believe
that was just the job centre was his final job before he was arrested.
Yeah. We believe a lot of the killings were done while he worked at the job centre.
There's no specific or set number, but Dennis Nilsen claimed at the beginning he killed 50, said 15 people.
15, yeah.
But then he said that he made up 3 of them. I don't know which 3, the 3 that he made up the names, or not really sure. I don't know why he really did that, but he made up 3. And he carried out these murders from between 1978 and 1983. While all the victims, he strangled them, and sometimes he would drown them in buckets of water or in the bath. Or he would use headphone wires or to strangle his victims, usually while they were asleep. So most of them probably didn't really know that it was coming to them, besides the ones that had gotten away. But we'll go into that.
What was also, I don't want to use the word unique about the case, but what was strange and just horrific about the case is that he would keep parts of the bodies in several homes that he occupied. So he, when he lived in, is it the Cricklewood area? Was it Cricklewood?
Yeah, Cricklewood at Melrose.
In Melrose Place in Northwest, he burnt some of the bodies and had some of the bodies stored in the floorboards. And then when he moved to Muswell Hill, he did similar things and kept a hold of parts of the bodies
under floorboards or underneath the kitchen sink.
It was proven that he would also take the bodies out and clean them up.
Well, he would bathe. Well, I guess a ritual. He would bathe them, dress them up, and sometimes he would take them out and this sounds really disturbing, but sit with them, I guess, on the couch and enjoy them as they were company. I can't really, obviously, I don't have a mind of a serial killer, so I can't really understand why he did it, but...
A lot of people say that it was a control issue. Also, one fact about his life is that he didn't have a good relationship with his parents, but he had a really good relationship with his grandfather. And when he was between 5 and 6 years old, he was invited into the living room to see his grandfather. His parents said, "Oh, you want to come and see your grandfather?" And he was obviously very excited to see his grandfather, who he loved. But when he went into the front room, his grandfather was in a coffin and was dead, and he didn't actually realize that was the case until he went into the room and saw his grandfather.
Because he also said, as when I was watching the ITV drama, he said he would pretend to play dead because he felt as if he was a different person, which I really don't understand. I mean, maybe from his point of view, I just didn't really understand the whole being a different person. But maybe to him, that's the link of his victims being a different person while they were dead. I mean, it's a bit disturbing, but...
The author of the book Killing for Company, Brian Masters, thinks that when that incident happened when he's with his grandfather, there was a weird fusion between love and death, and he thinks that was part of his weird obsession with death. We don't know if that's true, but it does make sense to a certain extent. Yeah.
While watching probably the documentaries and the drama, no one... Okay, at the time, I guess, when Dennis was committing the murders, he wasn't... Well, he was probably at the age of 30-something. And a lot of his victims were a lot younger than him. So one of his victims were 14 years old. Stephen Holmes was 14 years old at the time when he met Dennis Nilsen. But according to some sources, it was believed that Dennis thought that Stephen was actually 17. But it still doesn't negate the fact that he was underage. But I just wanted to add that in there. So I don't know why nobody's really mentioned the fact that...
Essentially, he was a...
I don't want to say the word, but, the P word. So... I don't know if he slept with him, but, he's kind of...
At least he definitely groomed him to the home.
Yeah, so the fact that no one's really mentioned it is a bit strange to me, but...
Yeah. I thought the actor David Tennant played Dennis Nilsen brilliantly, because I've seen actual footage of Dennis Nilsen, and he played him brilliantly. Yeah,
probably to the point that I actually hate David Tennant in real life now, because...
and that's the only thing you've seen him in, right?
Yeah, so
he's always going to be that guy.
To me, he's always going to be Dennis Nilsen, so...
But it's weird because he actually normally plays that happy-go-lucky character. This is literally the darkest character I've ever seen him play. But I think he nailed it. The drama on a whole I enjoyed, but I think documentaries that I've watched, like the one you sent me and the one that was on ITV also, just gave a lot more facts
into who he was and what happened. So I think in the documentary and what they missed out in the drama, and Dennis Nilsen had I don't know, you want to call him a lover or a best friend, a man named Martin. So Martin was in this documentary and he was talking about his experiences with Dennis, Des, whatever you want to call him.
Which, they called him Des. That was his nickname.
But I'm going to call him Dennis. And
I don't feel comfortable calling him Des. No.
Martin basically explained how they pretty much... He found him to be a closed-off guy. He wasn't really that open, but he never had any weird experiences with him, which I didn't realise why. I didn't understand why they didn't show him in the ITV drama. Maybe he didn't want to be portrayed in it. I don't know. Yeah,
I didn't like the fact that they did that, because he killed and attempted to kill so many people, but... Sorry, Martin?
Martin, yeah.
But Martin was like the odd one out, who he had an actual friendship with, and he didn't try and kill, and I think that was quite an important fact. But maybe I think the drama took the easy way out, because it was easy for them to say the vulnerable people that he invited to the home. But there had to have been a specific reason why he didn't attempt to kill Martin. Maybe they had a solid relationship from, I don't know how long they knew each other, you know.
But they knew each other over the span of when Nilsen was committing the murder, so from 78 to 81. Yeah, they knew each other over that period. So whilst they had that friendship, he was still committing those murders. So I don't know, it was just strange. Well, I wouldn't say strange that he didn't know, it's just strange that he wasn't mentioned. And I think Martin also mentioned that he visited him while he was in prison, so the fact that they didn't show that either was a bit strange to me. But and Martin talked about the fact that one day he visited Dennis unannounced, and Dennis was acting strange. He didn't let him in the house, and he was like, "Oh, I'm really busy," you know. And Dennis would have definitely had bodies in the house. Everybody commented that his house always smelt funny, but people just assumed, he had a dog, so maybe it was the dog. He just had that old man smell. Yeah. Because Martin was talking about in a documentary, we can watch it on YouTube. He said that he was okay with having a sexual relationship with him, but he didn't want anything to go further. And I think Dennis wanted more. So Dennis had asked him to move into the Cranley Gardens house afterwards, but Martin didn't want to. So I think Martin had visited him in prison and asked him, if I had moved in with you, do you think you would have carried on these murders? And Nilsen said no. I'm not sure if I really believe that. I don't know if AI thinks differently, but
no, I don't believe that either. But I think he actually believes that. And I think I was thinking about why he didn't attempt to kill Martin, but I think it was because he was specifically choosing the vulnerable people to come to his home and take advantage of them and obviously kill them. But Martin was a different case, because actually Martin gave me the impression that he was quite an intelligent guy.
Yeah.
Not to disrespect any of the rest of the victims, but he intellectually he had his match.
Yeah, so he could play Dennis at his own game.
Exactly. So he sort of respected. He definitely. I feel like he respected him.
But it's hard to say when we don't really know how the other victims were. It's just, I don't know what it is about what Martin gave off to make Dennis feel like, do you know what, I'm gonna not take this any further. I don't know if it was maybe the rejection from him made him want him more, or I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much, but it was a interesting dynamic to see that he had at least one person that we know in his life that considered him a friend. Another spanner in the works for me was the fact that some people that he attempted to kill, if he didn't succeed or if it didn't go the way he planned, he would save their life in the morning, and it was just really confusing to me. Why he attempted to strangle them, then drown them, and then if that didn't work, why he saved some and then let some go. I'm not sure if, because you mentioned before he used to work for the police, so I don't know if I guess in that time period, I guess the late 70s, early 80s, I guess being gay in that time period, maybe hate crimes that happened then, they wasn't taken as seriously. So as I was doing my research, some of them had reported it, some hadn't. So I don't know if the police had taken it a bit more serious then. They could have maybe stopped this a long time ago. It was hard for like gay men to go to the police and report these crimes, because like you said, they weren't taken seriously, and you know, they were ridiculed a lot of the time. So do you think that Dennis wasn't worried because the police weren't going to take him serious? That makes sense. That could be a part of it. Or do you think he was trying to get caught a long time ago, or? I don't know. I think at the end of the drama, they suggested that he was grateful that he got caught, but I don't think he would have turned himself in. The first domino of how he began to get captured, because the house in Cranley Gardens, there was a blockage in the drains, and that was because Dennis was
flushing people down the toilet and
flushing the remains.
Yeah.
He would they said that he would get rid of the internal organs to stop the smell.
Yeah.
And then apparently he would boil some of the body parts or whatever.
Yeah.
Put some in bags and put air freshener on top of it. And yeah, so like you said, the rest of it went down the toilet and then obviously got stuck in the drains.
Yeah.
And they said there was one part where when he lived at Cranley Gardens, him and the other people, I guess, that lived in that flat complained to, I don't know, maybe the landlord, and said, you know, that if the smell wasn't good, if they didn't get rid of that smell or got rid of the blockage, then they would not pay their rent or they would move out. So to me, it was kind of like he had audacity to do that and then go and act like, you know, basically throw the stone and hide his hands.
Yeah.
So at Cranley Gardens, there was a blockage in the pipes. A plumber had been called out where he had found remains and then alerted the police, and that's where the investigation started from.
Police were told, basically, and then
that it must have come from it couldn't have come from the middle flat because it wasn't occupied, so it must have come from the top.
Yeah, and it couldn't have come from the bottom one you were saying because the drain system works downwards.
Yeah.
And then the police came to question Dennis, and they pretty much, the police officer, I forgot his name, pretty much knew that he was responsible for these bodies.
But when they went to the house, I know this is based on a drama, and they done this in a documentary, but they went in there and they knocked on the door and they asked about the blockage of the drain, and Nilsen replied, "Since when did police
care about drains?"
Yeah, so he kind of had I don't know if it was nonchalant attitude or I don't know, he just come across as really like, oh well, that's how I took it anyway.
But then the policeman said, well, let me upstairs and I'll talk to you a little bit more about it. And then the policeman, he was quite forward, and he took the opportunity to say, listen, don't mess me around. Where are the rest of the bodies, or how many bodies are there? And then Nilsen just admitted.
And just said it's in the cupboards.
Yeah, you know. So he would have, we talked about this a little bit before, but there was one incident where he had a human head of one of his victims boiling in a pot all night, and then woke up in the morning, checked the temperature of the pot, and then decided to have a slice of toast. Yeah. As it was nothing. Like it was nothing. So yeah.
So I guess they took him. He got arrested, and that's where based on the drama, he said that he had killed maybe either 12, 15. I don't know if he said 12 or 15 people, but just from me watching the drama, to me, any thought of him maybe having any, I don't know, mental illness or went out the window for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think mental illness was a defence. However, he clearly was not right in his head, and I think while I was watching it, I got the feeling that he was just a typical psychopath. You know. And we were reading about the definition of a psychopath earlier on. It's impulsive. You don't have a conscience. You just do what you please whenever you want. And arrogance, and you know, that sense of self-righteousness. And I think he fitted all those criteria as a psychopath.
I mean, being interested in crime series and serial killers and etc. Being a viewer, it's hard for me to, I guess, diagnose someone being a psychopath. I kind of just listen to what the professionals say. So I agree with the whole definition. He does fit it, but I just find it hard to define him as being a psychopath. Yeah. That's just me anyway. Yeah.
Because why would you say that? Just in general, or
no? Just in general, not with Nilsen. Just in general, for me to label some.
Yeah, because it's like a medical diagnosis, and no, I get what you mean.
So
yeah, I mean, but some of his behaviour was just, I mean, you know, he reminded me of Jeffrey Dahmer. Apart from, he wasn't boiling the bodies to eat them. He was just literally trying to get rid of them. But I think what his fascination was with death. And that's why I kind of agree with the writer's analysis. You know, when he said that when his father died, I mean, that was his grandfather died, that was definitely a part of it. Because sitting with the bodies and, you know, and like having dinner with them,
it's
shocking.
Yeah. And it's just some parts, it's kind of hard to understand his mind frame. I don't, like I said before, you're never really going to understand the mind frame of a serial killer, but it seemed like at some parts while he was sitting in jail, he seemed like he was being sympathetic towards them, because the I guess the writer of the book, he said, he said to him something along the lines of, why haven't you mentioned the victims' names? You know, I've already taken their life and you're not even going to honour them by mentioning their names. And you're just sitting there thinking like,
you're the one that, how dare you, you're the one that killed them. They would have names if, I mean, they do have names, but they would be alive if it wasn't for you. You know.
So does that come under him being a psychopath or just him being arrogant?
I think they're one and the same. Another part of the drama and the situation that stood out is that he asked, because he had quite a, I don't want to say a good relationship, but obviously the writer, Brian, had decided to write a book, so he was visiting him in prison a lot, so they formed a relationship, you know, based on the fact that he was writing a book. But
do you think it was a good relationship, or you're just saying a relationship?
It was a relationship.
Okay, because the way they showed him, he didn't really ever seem really comfortable with him. He just seemed like
okay. Yeah. I totally agree with that. He never, because he just saw how much of a strange man he was. But he was like, I think that he said the basis behind his book was, how does a man like you exist? How does a man like Dennis Nilsen exist? And I think that is quite important to and something else that stood out to me as well. He said, because he was talking to the police officer, and he said, something about understanding. You think, the police officer said to the writer, you think you can understand him? And he said, I want to comprehend what he's done. Yeah. And there is a difference. And I can't explain the difference, but I kind of get what he was saying. Yeah. It's like, it's important to understand his psyche. Why people like
him exist.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd ever really prevent it, I guess, but I guess understanding it, it does help.
Yeah.
I guess society.
That stood out to me again when with the writer, Dennis asked the writer to check on his dog, and then unfortunately the dog had been put down, and then that was the first time he showed any emotion
for the dog that was probably trying to get out that whole time.
But yeah, it was just shocking that was the only time he showed any emotion. And I think he passed away in 2018.
Okay.
But his sister's son was really depressed about the whole situation and ended up taking his own life. So that is another tragic.
It's like a knock-on effect.
Yeah, exactly, of the whole situation.
So like you're saying about Carl, like they showed in the drama. They kind of gave him a hard time. So it was just like, do you want to put this guy away, or are you going to make it seem like he had reason?
What was sad was that they closed the investigation early.
Oh yeah, it was they investigated Nilsen, I guess, for 4 months. And how many did he get charged? How many murders did he get charged with?
6.
And what was his sentence?
Was sentenced for 6 counts of murder
and 2 attempted.
Yeah, and he was sentenced for life imprisonment with a minimum of 25 years. I mentioned Carl Stotter before.
He was shown in quite a few documentaries and in the drama. Yeah. I'm not really 100% sure, but to me it was just so messed up, the fact that he was kind of pressured into taking the stand to be a witness, and they weren't even going to include him.
Yeah, what was that? Well, I can't remember why that was, because it was too late. Yeah. He didn't want to really testify, but he felt like he had to. His life was.
But I think he still would have got the 6 counts. We got the 6 counts of murder with or without him. So I don't really. Maybe it's to strengthen the case, but I guess from what I saw and how. When he spoke in a documentary, he was quite traumatized by this for a really long time. So the fact that they put him on there was a bit unfair, but I guess that's the law for you.
And again, it really ripped apart his family. You know, his nephew ended up taking his own life. I wanted to talk about the audacity of Nilsen's insanity plea.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
Yeah, like I said earlier, he didn't. To me, obviously, I don't know how the law works in the sense of pleading insanity or diminished responsibility, but he showed that he was very calculated.
Exactly.
From the get-go. But I guess why you don't know these things until you get to the end of investigating a murder.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was not acting really reckless. He was going, and he's probably still working. You know, he was still picking up men. You know, the fact that he was taking out organs and putting them somewhere so they don't smell, that's, to me, you're calculating that.
So calculated, yeah.
You're placing them in certain places, and I'm pretty sure, well, I don't know the reason why he moved home, but there's probably a reason why he moved home. So to me, that was calculated. So to me, that was never a good reason. And the fact that you have the only person that they said that came to visit you, which I don't really know is true. They said the only person that came to visit him was a biographer, but then Martin said that he visited him in the prison. So I'm not really sure the difference in accounts.
Yeah.
What do you think about the insanity?
I just thought it, like I said, it was it was so unfair and audacious because he did calculate all the murders. And you say you want to honour the people, but you're not, because you're putting their families through all this nonsense when you can just admit what you did and give them some form of... They'll never get true justice because, you know, but at least some form of justice.
But do you think he genuinely didn't remember who he murdered, or do you think...
I think he didn't remember all the names. I think he definitely didn't remember all the names.
Yeah.
But for him to... This is separate from him pleading insanity, like he didn't know what he was doing when he clearly did.
Yeah.
You know, I just think it's horrible that he would have put the people's families through that.
I feel like the closer it got to the end of him being sentenced, he was just becoming more obnoxious. And I don't know if it's because he was getting more attention and he felt... And he had this bravado of, you know, well, if you want anything out of me, then you need to play by my rules kind of thing. And it was like, I don't know if I felt like they were kind of giving it to him or not, but...
Yeah. One thing I was going to ask you, though, is do you think that he planned all the... Obviously, he murdered about 15 people.
Yeah.
But do you think he was like, I'm going to go out and find another man to murder? Or do you think... in his crazy mind, he actually did want a friend and he was bringing them back, and then
something went wrong.
Something went wrong. As I'm saying it, I don't even believe it. Because that can't happen. That can happen 1 or 2 times, but not
every time.
Not 15. He says 12, whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's really hard to say because, like I was saying to you earlier, the only person that, unless I'm getting this really wrong, that I remember him having a sexual relationship was with Martin. I don't really remember anybody else saying
that they actually had intercourse.
Yeah, that there was any sexual relationship. So I know that's really irrelevant, but it's just the fact that it was just a bit strange to me. So I don't know, was he not comfortable in himself yet, or I don't know. But it's just the fact that, okay, you're going out to pick up. I don't know. Like you said, was it intentional? Because if it wasn't intentional, why do the victims all have a similar... they all fall under the vulnerable category. Like they're either homeless or they needed help. So to me, yes, he planned it. It's just hard. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I don't know if it's like you said, that maybe he got there, he got fed up and he was like, do you know what? I'm going to kill them. But then it just don't even make sense to me. Even I can't even come up with a good enough answer. I don't have his mindset.
Yeah, well, he would sit with wash the bodies like we were talking about earlier, and sit with them. And I think in his mind he actually was trying to just keep these people, because I remember him saying, I mean, this was in the drama. But I kind of believe this is kind of true, that he would have wanted to preserve the bodies in the maldehyde.
Yeah.
You know, which is obviously, preserves body parts. So there was something about capturing these people, and when he talked about them, he said, oh, he had lovely hands, or he would be like, oh, that guy had a lovely body, or whatever it was that he would say. It wasn't like, like total disgust for these people. So some part of him did actually like them, and he just wanted to keep them, but he had a twisted way of doing it. Like, he didn't have any confidence that they would stay. And I think that was the disconnect.
I don't know, because I'm going to based off the internet, so obviously the internet can be wrong. I think, I'm not going to assign who, but maybe 2 of the victims, he didn't want them to be there anymore. He had asked them to leave, but they had come back because he was being so kind to them. They wanted to be around him. So when they didn't leave, he kind of just did whatever he wanted to do. So I'm not really sure about that whole, he wanted to keep them around, because I think some of them he did ask to go. He didn't want them around anymore, and maybe because they didn't leave, because he gave them somewhere to stay, some food. Maybe he just got fed up. Because I don't. Maybe it wasn't just like they came home the same night and he killed them. They could have been there for 2-3 days, and then it could have happened. They haven't really specified how long some of them were there.
I mean, good point, but I think it was definitely about control then. Him having that, urge to just be in charge of another human being. Sleeping with the bodies. He said that he didn't.
Oh, they got a lot of, I don't know, he's been accused of, committing necrophilia. He said no. I've never found any information about that. I don't know if I really want to, but I don't know if anybody knows about this case, and you want to leave a comment below about what you know about this case. It will be helpful, but
I won't read it, but yeah. Do you think that there was any way that this wouldn't have happened? Like, remember we talked earlier about his grandfather dying, and the fact that he worked as a policeman and a chef. Like, somehow I think all these things tied together to enable him to do what he did. But do you think there was a chance that this wouldn't happen?
When he saw his grandfather, how old did you say he was?
Between 5 and 6.
So that's obviously, things happen between 5 and 6, and maybe him exploring his sexuality, etc. But to me, from 5 and 6 going on to the age of 30, that's a big jump of something happened in between, for him to think, okay, I want to commit murder, but I'm not going to live my life as a human being with morals. Maybe after the first murder he thought, I'm going to carry this on. Maybe after the second one he thought, I'm going to carry this on.
But they say though that once certain people kill, they get a taste for it and they get addicted to it. And he did say, at the end of again going back to the drama, that he would have just kept going.
But it's just because it's hard to say when he still had that one friend that he decided that he wasn't going to do anything to. That's why it just makes it hard to say. If it was like, okay, he didn't have anyone in his life, then I'd be like, okay, that's him. He's on that side. He wanted to keep them around him, but I guess deceased. But then he kept him around, so it's just hard for me to see him in any other view than a monster, if I'm being honest.
Absolutely. He was totally a monster. But then at the same time, sorry, were you finished?
No, I was just gonna say, it's just, he went on and he lived his rest of his life until he died in prison, but all these people that he murdered, like, that's it for them now. Like, their family's not going to see them again. Half of them probably didn't even know that they were missing. That
was really sad, because a lot of them were separated from their families. They didn't have a good family unit, and the police turned up to one particular family's home, and the family were like, he's not lived here in years. And police were like, can we come in, we really need to talk to you. And then that's when they told the family that their son was dead. So it was just tragic that some of these people just didn't ever have a family unit. Like, some of them weren't missed. And it seems like a bit off topic, but a lot of these serial killer cases, they seem to go for
you know, maybe prostitutes or people that are drug addicts or people that don't have a lot of connection, and they just kind of single them out. So you go from someone like a serial killer, you got one monster that's trying to take someone on the other side that's vulnerable, and they're just trying to, you know, play God, I guess.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, that's another discussion for another video. But.
Yeah. When I first heard about this case, because I didn't really look into it, I thought that he was a repressed gay man and was angry about himself being gay and was going around killing these men because he was angry about himself. But now I don't see that at all. I just think he just happened to be gay. If he wasn't gay, he would have been going around killing women. It wasn't about... I think he was quite confident. I think he was quite sure of himself. I don't think he was I don't think he hated himself in any way.
Yeah,
actually.
I didn't get that sense. I mean, it could be wrong, but I didn't sense that either. I didn't sense that he hated himself. But I guess maybe in that time period, I guess in the 80s, you're not really as open as you wanted to be. But like you said, I didn't sense any lack of confidence if he's confidently picking up men here and there and picking up from bars. And you know, right now we're talking about 15, give or take, or so, and it could have been a lot more. He could have taken home a whole load of people that probably don't even remember.
Yeah, that's it.
So it's a sad case, and the fact that it's just good. It was a good amount of years ago, but the fact that it's just so close to home. It's kind of just
chilling.
me.
It's very chilling. Even when we was driving to the homes, just thought of it. Obviously, he's not been there in years, but just remembering that all those things happened,
and you're looking right from there. It just
strange. That, I mean, people must know that it happened. Wouldn't it be weird living in that home?
But I mean, okay, I've lived in the same home for all my life. When you move houses, do you research the house that you're going into? Do you ever put your...
Maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking, maybe you want to know, but at the same time, maybe it's best for myself just to not know. But then...
I mean, I don't believe in, like, ghosts, but on a spiritual level, like, I feel like that house would need some cleansing, like some spiritual cleansing.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it's just a tragic case of a psychopath that couldn't stop himself from murdering up to 15 people. And another thing that's tragic is that some of the bodies weren't found because he burnt them and destroyed them and stuff like that.
So it's between what it said 1980 and maybe 1981 or 2, 7 men were not even identified. And he either doesn't remember or he didn't care enough to even give the families you know, peace of mind to even say who they were. So even to me, that makes it even worse, the fact that he just thought in his mind, well, to me that's just kind of like oh well, like I don't even care enough to even, I'm not going to say you're going to write down and make a note, but he didn't even care enough about them to even remember who they were. So that's how I see it.
And no defense to him, because obviously it's indefensible, but like if he was just about one night stands, me personally, I've never had a one night stand, but I'm just saying, if he was about one night stands, then you wouldn't really remember the names. I mean, it is bad that he killed.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
But you know what I mean? It's like... But yeah. Okay,
we're going to go really off topic, but they called him the kindly killer because he's inviting them, looking after them. There was even one guy, I think, Malcolm, he was suffering some mental issue, and I think he had epilepsy, not mental issues, sorry, he's had epilepsy and maybe some other issues, and he helped him get to a hospital or whatever he did. So it wasn't as simple as just a one night stand. It seemed like he was helping these people. So if you're helping someone, maybe not necessarily going to get their name, but he's helping them enough. So just the fact that he just and it wasn't like these murders happened over a 10-year span. These were 4 years, so they're happening quite close together. So
some of the names he did remember, and then some he didn't.
I've known about this case if
first we're gonna do the whole show at the murder houses, but then
I'm sorry, but
Kay was against it.
I said no. I mean, I'm not a religious person. The spirits thing I do believe in, but that's too much for me. One, because the family was home, so it would have been a bit rude to kind of film outside the house. And two, that's just it's a no for me. I'd rather keep the location somewhere else. But it was, I guess, it's interesting to know where these things happen. I guess I would say interesting. That's the wrong word to use, but.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back with another episode shortly. So we'll be back with another serial killer. Yeah, next week we'll joke from time to time, but again, it's a very horrible, serious, tragic case, and RIP to the victims. Yeah, absolutely.